How often have you said about something bad that's happened to you recently or in the past that, that was really bad, but I grew from it. I learned, I did this good thing came of that. Talked about there being a silver lining to the dark times in your life. Well, that's a good way to reframe it, but there's also possibly a very negative message that you're sending to your unconscious mind that may cause you problems down the road. And that's what we're going to dive into today. Hi, I'm Ravi Tangri, and this is SOULgineering Your Life and Work. This is about how do you find those tiny little pressure points where you put a little bit of effort here, a little bit there, and it shifts everything to really elevate your life so you can bring more heart, more soul into all of your life, your work, your home, your community, everything that you do. Today, what I want to get into is how we deal with challenges in our life and how we interpret them. We all go through difficult times in our life, through challenges, hard times, turbulence, and we come through it. One of the things that we often do is we rationalize it that, that sucked, but this benefit happened. I grew in this way. I learned all of these things. We find the silver lining in the dark cloud. We find the blessing of the hardship. And that happens a lot. I've done that myself. In my early life, for my first 5 years were spent in a terrorist regime in Burma where we were trapped until we could escape. And, while I don't believe I experienced anything directly. My parents definitely did. And I am an empath and I marinated in their fears for most of my pre-adult life. And that caused me to seek a great deal of healing through my adult life. And I did work on that and do huge healing. And so I know I've said in the past that, you know what? I wouldn't be me if that hadn't happened in Burma because I gained all these learnings. I healed in this way. I've gained this perspective. Sometimes people say that there's a reason for everything and it's what we gained from it. And this is so, so common. What's the blessing in the hardship? What's the silver lining in the dark times? I know something that really took this to a different level happened on my 50th birthday. It was an amazing time. I had done so much healing work. I was 2 years out of my marriage, 1 year in my new home. I was in a beautiful, healthy relationship. And at my party, I was surrounded by my family and friends. I was feeling so high because of the healing work that I had done. I was feeling in flow. I was feeling so much love around me, so supported. It was an incredible time, probably one of the best times, if not the best time in my life up to that point. And I distinctly remember at one point I was thinking, wow, I can't wait until the next time I'm down like I was a couple of years ago when the marriage ended, so I can feel this good again. Oh boy, guess what happened? Sure enough, a few years later, boom, hit bottom even deeper. And it took a lot of work to heal through that. And I did get to feel good, but I've since realized that there was a major flaw in my logic. Recently, I discovered the work of Edward Mannix, who created the healing modality called the compassion key. And he points out a fallacy in this whole silver linings perspective that we look at the bright side of the bad things that happen. You see, one thing you've got to understand to get this is your unconscious mind is like 5-year-old kid. It doesn't grow up, and it takes everything you say literally, and it doesn't understand complexity and metaphor and so on. And so if you say that, oh my gosh, I grew and I learned and I healed because of this hardship, what your unconscious mind does is, it's a 5-year-old kid. It goes, oh, then in order to grow, we need struggle. We need to overcome challenges. We cannot grow any other way. And that's incredibly powerful programming. One of the things that I've learned from working through Edward Mannix's work is that, there's a lot of growth that does come from challenging times, but we could have that growth without the challenge and the hardship. There are ways to have those insights, to have that growth, to move forward, to progress without having to go through the hardship. I'm still not sure how I stand fully and completely. There is some sense of that everything happens for a reason. And, there are hardships that I've gone through in my life that I grew from. It's true. Could I have gained that knowledge, those insights, that growth without the hardships? Possibly. But the fact is that doesn't matter. What is most important is what I am programming myself for the future. What am I expecting? And I'm going to ask you this. What are you expecting? There's all of these things that are hardships, and we assume we have to have these challenges. We have to have these hardships. It's part of life. It's how we learn and how we grow. But what if that wasn't the only way? What if we could learn and grow through ease? What if we could learn and grow while living in ease and flow? Why do we have to have the challenges and the hardships to grow? And this is a powerful programming that we give our unconscious minds, that this is something that's necessary for us to grow. So the question I would ask you, the takeaway from this episode is not as simple as do this and this result. It's a question or a set of questions to think about and to sit in. What is it that you are rationalizing? What is it that you are expecting? Are you expecting your future to be like your past, that you have grown through difficult times, through challenges? You can do more, but then there are other challenges that help you grow. What if you could grow, you could learn, you could live more fully without struggle? What if that was what you were expecting? How could that change your life? If you journal, this is something that you could journal around. I mean, I don't know if you could imagine a life where you grow and learn with ease and with joy instead of through difficult times. Why does it have to be just through challenge? Who would you be if you weren't dealing with challenges? Could you even sense who you'd be, what you would be doing if you weren't focusing on overcoming those challenges, if you weren't doing the things that are sometimes difficult to do? What if you could just imagine how things could be if you could just be living in ease and flow and joy and growing and learning that way? What might that look like? What sort of energy are you putting into dealing with challenges or bracing for them because you're expecting difficulties will happen? We're living in a crazy, wackadoodle, uncertain world right now. So there's a lot that you can be nervous and uncertain about. But the thing is, if you look back in your life, you've had all sorts of things happen and you've adapted to them. You're here, you're successful. You may not feel sometimes that you're successful, but think about it in terms of so many other people out there. You're doing so much more, you're doing so much better than many people out there, but you may not acknowledge that. You have found your way through. The question is, do you need to continue going through the caca to learn, to grow, and to find your way through? I'm realizing that you do not. And the first step is perhaps exploring, what could life be like? How much energy am I putting into facing the hardships, still carrying burdens from the past and bracing for what could happen in the future? Because part of you still believes that there could be things that happen like that, because your experience has shown you've gone through one after another. But I wonder how much of that happens because it happened and how much happened because we expected it. And so we made it happen. We influenced it. So this is really something more I'm challenging you to think about. Do you expect adversity and that's what's going to help you grow? Or are you expecting ease and flow where the growth and the learning comes in a much more pleasant way? And beliefs can be changed. There is a simple exercise I can give you to, if you will, rewrite your unconscious beliefs. Now, affirmations are great, but the thing I've found is just doing an affirmation every day and every way. I'm getting better and better, and saying that 10 times a day or 100 times a day. Sometimes it can be like trying to tear down an iceberg with a toothpick. What I have found is a way to put affirmations on steroids and really ramp up how you shift things. And this is a very simple technique. What you do is you get a sheet of paper with lines on it, and you draw a line down the middle, a vertical line. And what you do is you think of the belief that either you think you have. For example, in this case, you could be, I learn and grow with ease. And on the left-hand side, on the top line, you write down, I learn and grow with ease, or whatever the affirmation or positive belief you want is. Then you just be still, and whatever pops up in your head, whatever thought pops in your head, you write it on the right-hand side. Then on the next line on the left-hand side, you write the same affirmation. You're going to do that all the way through. In this case, perhaps I learn and grow with ease. And then the first thing that comes to your head on the right-hand side, the first thought that pops up, and you just keep going. What will often happen is the right-hand side is the unconscious programming. It's what's really going on. And, it could be like, no, you don't. No, I don't. It's never easy. Whatever things that pop up. And as you go down, keep writing the same positive affirmation on the left. Write down whatever pops into your into your mind from your unconscious on the right-hand side. What happens is, as you go through the page, about halfway down, things can get really nasty. You could start dropping F-bombs there. You could be, really, it could get really dirty and vicious. But as you keep going through that page, sometimes it's necessary to go to a second page. But I've never used this technique or had my clients use it where they've needed more than 2 pages. Maybe you will. The right-hand side starts to change, and it starts to slowly shift to align with the belief on the left-hand side. So what you are doing is allowing the real unconscious programming, what's really driving you, to pop up on the right-hand side. And as you keep stating the belief that you want on the left-hand side, you reprogram your unconscious mind, and it's your unconscious that really guides you. So if you are willing to explore this thing about silver linings and let go of the belief that you need to have hardship to learn and grow, try this technique out. On the left-hand side, keep going down by writing, I learn and grow with ease. Notice what pops up on the right-hand side, and you will discover what your unconscious programming is, and you will slowly be able to rewrite it to align with this. And think about how much of a difference that can make in your life if instead of all of the pain and struggle in the hardship, all of that energy is going to learning and growing with ease. Imagine the difference that it could make. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this, on the challenge of the silver lining, and perhaps a fallacy of the silver lining, and what you discover in your explorations. This is deep work, and it sometimes can take a lot of work and some amazing conversations to really start to surface how you may actually be creating more difficulty in your life than you actually need to have happen. So please share with me, email comments and email me, or you put it in the comments, and let me know what your thoughts are and what you discover in this journey. I'm Ravi Tangri. This is SOULgineering, your life and work, and I will see you next week.
I've got the energy, it's all I need to finish.